A trip from Pittsburgh, PA to Gros National Park, August 2023. Going solo by myself, I went from Pittsburgh to Newfoundland, Canada. There's the map. Day 1 took me from Pittsburgh to Cherry Springs about 3.5 hours. There's a cool mushroom I saw near Cherry Springs. And then here's my tent and a chair that I sat in. And you'll see here in a second. Look, there's a camera that I use to take pictures of the sky because it's great for stargazing. There's a picture I took. Now, day 2 from Cherry Springs State Park to Portland, Maine took me about 8.5 hours. Started off before the 8.5 hours at this little diner with Brad and Katie who joined me for a minute. Day 3, Portland, Maine to North Sydney, Nova Scotia to catch the Marine Atlantic Ferry. There's the ferry area. It was nighttime. This is me driving onto the ferry. And I was a little nervous that I would miss the ramp and drive into the water. But luckily, I didn't. And no one seemed to. Now, this is like the little hangout area inside the ferry. And this was the area you could sit in and sleep in. This is where I was at. There's some TVs. Look at that broken chair. It had a kind of a weird, bad smell in this ferry, I'm not going to lie. This is the next morning. So there's at the outside of the ferry, nice boat. Well, I'm in Newfoundland at this point. You can see those cool little houses. And you'll see they're all kind of colorful little buildings as you're coming into the Newfoundland. And there's a lighthouse. That was nice. And day 4, I went from a place, I don't know how to pronounce it, to Gros National Park. I stayed in a bed and breakfast that night. This is me driving. I wasn't really driving that fast. I'm speeding up the video so that we don't have to waste a lot of time. And you'll see a truck go by here any second. There it goes. That's the bedroom in the bed and breakfast with a nice pillow. And it was great breakfast. Day 5, I hiked Baker's Brook Falls Trail and Berry Head Trail. Now that is a staircase that was very steep and seems to never end. A little mushroom up there. And I kept walking and saw more mushrooms. That was neat. And there's the nice little trail I took. And then I came to this weird enclosure which had me a little freaked out. Reminded me of Jurassic Park. But I went in, and I couldn't get out. Weird and I realized the enclosure was to keep moose out. I thought maybe it was to keep them in, and I didn't know if I should be in there. But it was safe. Just a little stupid on my part to get worried. But it was fun. It was fair. Now here's me walking through the woods. Nice woods, lots of trees. There's Baker's Falls. It was really nice, and I met some people that I don't remember who they were at all at this point, but they were there. Day 6, sea kayaking in the Bon Bay, and it was a lot of fun. That's maybe the Bon Bay, I don't know. There's the Bon Bay, and got to get into the kayaks. It was a lot of fun. Gros Adventures was a great experience. I would highly recommend them if you ever go. They knew what they were doing. They were fun. This is some buildings on the side of the ocean, and they were nice. Now I asked this person if she could play the instrument for me, and she did. And she did a great job. And I never seen that instrument before. I didn't buy one. It's at a gift shop because I figure I could make one, and I didn't feel like spending like $70 on a stick with some other stuff to it. Now I'm walking to Western Brook Pond. This is Western Brook Pond Trail, and it was a nice easy walk, probably the easiest trail at the whole park. And that's the building. You can get some food in there. I didn't, but there's like a little restaurant cafe. There's the boat I took. And now I'm on the boat, and you can see that's pretty cool. Beautiful everywhere you go at this point. This is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. I probably took 300 pictures, and they all kind of look alike, roughly. They're all definitely different, but Now, it was very suspenseful as we're going around. The guide was very knowledgeable and taught many things about the area. And if you ever take this trip, I'd recommend going early, getting on the boat at the top level because you get a better view. That's where I was at. But people were stuck in the bottom. Not, you know, it's probably still a great time. Look at that. Look at that. It's gorgeous. It was unbelievably nice. I could live there if they'd let me, but that's a national park. And there's a lot of waterfalls. You can see some of these pictures. You know, it's a little surreal being there. Western Brook Pond. That's where this is at in Gros, Morne National Park. Now here's me in the video coming back, and it was a great time. I consider this one of the happiest moments of my life. That's why I took the video of myself, because if there's ever a bad day, I can look back and be like, oh yeah, that's what I look like when I am extremely happy. And they were playing the spoons on the way back, like the guides, and everyone was having a great time. Everyone was super nice. The only mean thing they said is they were talking crap on Toronto. Everything else was all nice stuff, but they didn't seem to like Toronto up in Newfoundland. Yeah, so there's still like me on the boat, just enjoying the boat. I didn't know this part was this long. But hey, it was a great time, so I'm glad it was that long. I'm smiling. Oh, I got something to eat, and I had this little sticker on the window. I felt like I should take a picture. Oh, there's some stars. I'm back at the camp at night. You see a little fire I made. It was nice. I was at Berry Hill Campground, which was very nice. Day 7, hike Gros Morne Mountain. This was the greatest hike I've ever done in my whole life. You can see far away, that's Gros Morne Mountain. You have to do a big hike to get to the hike of the mountain. There was these cool little birds, kind of like chickens and pigeons put together. They were friendly. I didn't touch them. Now I'm closer. This is kind of the trail getting there. Slowly getting there. There's a beautiful waterfall on the way. That was a nice little stop. And more of the trail. It was really nice. I left at like 5 in the morning. I needed like the whole day to do this trail. And now the bottom of the mountain, looking up. And now I'm pretty far up, but not even halfway. Great view. These are the rocks you have to climb on. So my legs were getting like jiggly after a while because I wasn't used to this. Now I'm pretty far up. Even a better view. And now I'm close to the top. And I didn't know what the stack of rocks was. I thought maybe it was a grave. Freaked me out. Now I'm at the top. And there was some other people up there, and they were nice enough to take this picture of me. Here's where I had lunch this day, which is like a Nutri-Grain bar or something. And rocks all up top. How'd they get up there? I don't know. This is like one of the greatest views I've ever seen in my whole life. And I stayed there for a while. And there wasn't anybody even around. It was so quiet, so beautiful. You know, when you're at a place like that, sometimes you wonder maybe I should just not leave and stay here forever because it's that nice. Great view. Now I'm heading back. You have to walk across the top of the mountain to follow the trail. Look at this great view. Still heading back. Starting to go down at this point. Oh, here's me going down. And you know, I didn't train for this at all. Not that you need to. I didn't, and I made it. But it also wore me out a lot. And if your knees are bad, maybe you shouldn't do this hike because it was rough on the knees, you know? And at this point, I'm probably like 2/3 the way through the entire, well, maybe not that much, I don't know, over halfway of the whole shebang. Heading down the mountain. There was some stairs in the middle of nowhere. This was a nice surprise. And look at this view. Nice pond in the middle of the mountain. Now I'm walking on all these rocks. How did they get there? There's so many of them. And I like rocks, so I thought about stopping and looking at them, but that would take forever. There was so many. They were so crunchy on the feet. Maybe like halfway down the mountain at this point. Maybe not even. I forget. Sometimes I didn't know where the trail really was, and sometimes it was real obvious. I thought this part was pretty obvious because it was like flattish compared to the rest. You can tell people were walking there before. There's probably some good fossils or rocks hidden in that big mess of rocks. I didn't edit this video, so you're getting the real deal. Look at that. Nice view. It's a little bit later. You can see you're getting down into the valley. Oh, now that's at the end of the mountain, so I'm now at the bottom of the mountain, heading back. Now I'm back in town. I'm on the harbor, and there's some nice little boats there. I thought that was nice. And day 8, hike the Tablelands and then Lookout Trail. The Tablelands is some of the oldest exposed rocks on Earth. Maybe the oldest. It's the mantle, they said. That's the mantle of the Earth. Somehow got pushed up to the surface, and I'm walking on it. And you can too if you go to Newfoundland, Gros National Park. It was really hot at this point, and I was working on my little film, Where's Moose? So I had my penguin puppet with me, and I was pretty far out as alone, and then it was pretty funny that out of nowhere at one point, some other people showed up, and they saw me, and they asked me if I was okay, and they were filming a real documentary, and there I was in the middle of nowhere with a penguin puppet. It was one of those special times. I hope to see that documentary someday. They were speaking both English and French, so it could be a French documentary. Look at that. Nice little creek, river, whatever you want to call it, right through the middle. Look at those flowers. Those were neat. Middle of nowhere. Look at that. That rock's probably really old. And if you go there, maybe you can find that same rock, because I left it right there. Nice little waterfalls. I actually put my feet in there at one point. And that felt pretty good. There's me and the penguin puppet. A little picture of the action I was working with. Look at this. Someone left a cart way out in the middle of nowhere. Now I'm at Lookout Trail, I believe. And you can see as this spins that it's going to go onto the Tablelands right there. That's where I was at before, over there. Now I'm over here. I'm doing a little spinning. Had some of the best fish and chips I've ever had. Actually, the best fish and chips I've ever had that night. And I think I was in Rocky Harbor, is what it's called. Beautiful town. If you go there, you should definitely stop at Rocky Harbor. Day 9, hike Morne Coastal Trail and then Berry Hill Trail. There's a nice lighthouse. There's a little museum inside. And then I was walking around. It was real windy. And I went out to the top of that cliff out there. Not to the very edge, but kind of in the middle. And it was really nice. Then I'm down on the water area now, and all these rocks. It was beautiful. This was probably the most crowded trail of the whole trip I took. And by crowded, I mean there was probably 10 other people I saw while I was out. A lot of these other trails, some of them I saw nobody, and some of them maybe like a handful of people, several. But it was a very remote trip. Look, there was a bear sign, and everyone was talking about how there was a bear nearby on the beach. And I forget the name of this beach, but there was a beach there. That was a nice pond. I think that picture's out of order. But now I'm going to the aquarium they have there. This is near Rocky Harbor, but I don't think it's in Rocky Harbor. For some reason I think it's called like Norristown, but I don't know if that's really what it's called. But I like the little stars and fish in that door. This was Bob Howe and his son. Bob turned 90 years old when I was there, and he was one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. He showed me this place to camp and showed me where to get some wood, and I had a nice fire on the ocean. It was one of the best times of my life. And I took this little video of a boat going by. I always sometimes think about this spot and maybe I should move there. And that could be me. It could be me riding that boat, looking at someone else on the shore with a fire. Or I could still be the person with the fire. It doesn't even matter. They both sound pretty good. Beautiful area. Gorgeous. Probably my favorite national park I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot. This is at nighttime. My tent's over there. So the fire's going nice. And look at that. It's a great fire. It was all by myself. It was quiet. Beautiful. But the next morning I had to go start heading back. So, you know, all good things come to an end, I suppose. Look how dark it was. I was wondering if that bear would show up. Alright, so day 10. From Gros Morne back to that port. The sun came out. In the morning it was beautiful. I left very early. I had to make the ferry again. There's the ferry area. I made it on time. And day 11 from North Sydney, Nova Scotia to Cavendish Beach, Prince Edward Island. Took another ferry, different ferry this time. It was a lot smaller. And that's the newspaper. You can see that they're worried about important things there, unlike here. And that, you know, Prince Edward Island kind of reminded me of Pennsylvania with the ocean, so it wins. Day 12, Prince Edward Island to Portland, Maine. Took me about 8 hours. Day 13, Portland, Maine to Pittsburgh, PA. Roughly 11 hours. And that's it. Thank you very much. See you later.